Design principle and design pattern. Principle means it's a principle, and where we can see the implementation, then that is the pattern. Now, if we see the solid design patterns, design principle, then SOLID, single responsibility to open close to least scope, substitution to interface segregation to dependency inversion. Okay, everyone talks its own tone, but one thing that talks about the interface kind of categorically is dependency inversion, that you should depend upon a class. That is very nice, but you should depend upon the interface of the class, not on the class itself. Okay, and if you depend upon the interface of the class, then certainly the class realizes the interface. So if you are the client component and there is a service component, then service component should realize one interface on which you should be dependent upon. So that is dependency inversion. So dependency inverted to interface rather than directly on the class. So I won't say that this is the most important design principle. Every design principle is kind of complete on its own, but this is different in a way that this talks about dependency on interface. When you write your program, the client component, when it writes the program through the class pointer, then class pointer must be interface. Okay, dependency means when you use the a class inside your code, it must not be through the class pointer. It must be through the interface pointer. Interface pointer in the sense in C++, the class does not have any attribute, and possibly all the methods are pure virtual. So please use that kind of class when you are writing code with, like a strategy. We gave example where either we use a vehicle or motorbike or sorting algorithm, whatever the generally these class pointer comes as parameter to the algorithm function, and then when we write the code, then code must be through the interface pointer rather than the class pointer. This is dependency inversion principle. I mean, it is peculiar in a sense that it decouples the usage and used through the interface. If decoupling happens, then what is the benefit? Okay. Now I am using a vehicle and I am kind of pushing uh, the the brake, leg brake. Okay, pushing or pulling, whatever. So now when my leg is it is pumping on. Okay, so on the brake, then or in motorbike also leg brake is there. So when my um, leg is pumping on the brake, so I should not be dependent upon the brake. I should be dependent upon the brake interface. When I kind of use the brake, then it kind of put some pressure on engine. Okay, so brake should not use engine directly. Brake should use engine interface. When there is an engine, then engine uses chassis. Engine should not use chassis directly. Engine should use chassis interface. Okay, so what is benefit for this? If my leg is accustomed of an interface rather than braking system, I can replace the brake, any other company brake, whatever, because it should only realize the particular interface. Then my leg would not feel that new kind of brake has come. So my life is smooth. If braking system uses engine interface, then new engine can be replaced because it is dependent upon the engine interface. If any engine kind of realizes a particular interface, then all right. Engine should depend upon the chassis interface. So any checklist engine should work on if it realizes a particular event. So, changing the scenario at runtime, it is not easy. It is kind of cakewalk. It is smooth. That is the geniusity of dependency inversion principle. You are amazing. Means whenever we kind of think about dependency means calling something. Whenever we think about dependency, then please think about interface. Okay, so the service component should realize the interface and client component should be using the interface. Okay, now this is principle. What about its usage? Let's talk about design pattern. Two design pattern that is sorted out, which is kind of three design pattern. So strategy anyway we have discussed at par. So iterator design pattern and mediator design exactly not the same because if we use interface then client component should realize the interface, not heavily implemented, but it is kind of like that. Like if I have so many components, rather than using the component directly, I have a television from many companies. Rather than going and jumping on televisions, I have a kind of another in between device called a remote. Okay, that is not company's remote, some kind of remote. If company remote is also okay, but it realizes some kind of interface called iterator design, where I'll browse the channel through left, right, up and down, and there are many home and like that. There are many keys. Those are kind of interface based. So iterator is a class is an interface which has set of methods. Okay, go to the home, go to the end, okay, then next previous and like that. So this is how you browse the channel. So if I now I have a Sony TV, I mean any TV there, then Sony iterator would derive from the iterator, and then it will actually it will go ahead and it will tweak the Sony TV because Sony iterator knows the Sony TV. Okay, now suppose that I have a kind of a Lenovo TV, okay, or I have a kind of Siemens TV. So if this kind of scenario is there, then I have iterator. Thank you, iterator. So iterator interface is already defined, and from there we have Siemens and Lenovo and Sony iterators are realized. Now a user client component. It wrote the program using the iterator interface. It does not know that what would happen because iterator will never change. Now, at the runtime, someone would pass Siemens iterator or Sony iterator or Lenovo iterator based upon the equipment. But the interface is same. This is interface dependency. You depend upon interface inversion. So you depend upon the interface. Now, what interface under the line it does, it is not your job. So when someone passing is Siemens iterator, then it is going, the iterator is going and it is browsing the Siemens TV because it knows that what all are the buttons. Probably it would be written in German or something like that. So what if someone presses home thinking that it will come to channel number 0 or something like that, then it knows that how to bring it to channel number 0. If someone presses that next, then how next would come. So this is interface inversion, I would say interface dependency. So our implementation, the client component must depend only on the interface. Okay. So code is obviously open close principle it follows and it is always closed. And whatever the interface pointer is carrying the object, that object is actually iterated, but whatever. The code is written with the iterator interface. So, or mediator design pattern. Like there are two components. One component want to pass call other component. They are dependent upon it. There is a component called A or client component. There is a component called B or service component. A want to use B, but it would not use directly. It would use mediator. So mediator is a kind of interface between these two. So behaviorally, it is interface between these two. So class A would call everything in the interface. Now everything in the mediator. Now it is mediator job that how it passes the information to the class. So mediator is not observer design pattern. It's not broadcast. It is intelligent. So inside the mediator, it will do some kind of intelligence before it calls B. But whatever, A knows mediator interface, B knows mediator interface, C, D, E, F, G, H all knows mediator interface. So before using any component inside the software or what before, means they blindly call them mediator interface, passing their status or what's. Now mediator interface knows that what to do. So interface program. Basically, it is interface. The interface inversion design principle is interface program. Please use interface when you are dependent upon a class. Okay, and the class should realize the interface. I believe this is a kind of cornerstone in the designing area. So designing area sits on polymorphism, and polymorphism is the main criteria or main charm or main brightness, the main glow of the polymorphism is interface. Okay, so you have a strategy, you have mediator, you have iterator, so many design patterns that kind of strategy, it exactly uses the dependency inversion principle, whereas iterator and mediator theoretically or conceptually they use because it is required that in the dependency inversion, whatever interface you are using, the service component should realize the interface. So here, like Sony TV and Sony iterator, so they are not depend upon realization. Okay, so it's okay. So, but still, the client component is dependent upon the interface. So, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and just browse your code that by mistake also you have not written code that is not the interface.